Good evening from the Tuscola Mountaineer Network. David Crompton, and along with Mr. Chuck Fiebernetz. Good evening, Chuck. How are you in Winston-Salem?
I'm hot.
I bet you are.
It's hot down here.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Supposed to
Tell
get a
me all
little
about
rain, and it just kind of went right through and didn't even drop a sprinkle. My lawn needs it. Hot weather down here.
it. Hot down in Winston. Let me
Not
turn this
the weather you get up there in the mountains now.
Hey, listen, we're smoking up here. We're we are beat up here. But welcome to I guess the second or third edition of our show. We're gonna come up with a better name. This was just somebody said, hey, you got to call it something right now, and I just typed it in. But we're gonna come up with a better name for this show because you know we deserve better. The people that are taking the time to watch us deserve better. But I didn't know what to do, so I did the best I could. So we will change the name. But tonight, Chuck, and I know that you've been studying very hard on this. We're going to talk about the Mountain 7 Conference and a little bit about the MAC. And as we get more into it, we can talk more about the MAC. I'm sure we'll talk about Asheville High a little bit tonight. As Tuscola kicks off at 7:30 Friday at CE Weatherby against the Cougars, who are right now, very highly touted. But anyway, your thoughts before we start talking specifically about teams, about the Mountain 7 and the quality of play this year, which I think is going to be. There's a lot of good football teams, but that's me. But
well, it's like mining for gold. Sometimes you strike out, you lose, you don't find any gold, and then all of a sudden, some other place, other mines, they find gold. And what you have is, a lot of questions within the Mountain 7. West Henderson winning the conference last year, losing a lot, including their offensive coordinator. You have Tuscola was second last year. And they had lost them to graduation. Smoky Mountain lost two quarterbacks, the brothers, and with that went 3,500 yards in total offense in production with the junior quarterback that's now a senior at Tuscola. And so, one loses and the other one gains within the conference. I think Pisgah, if they can stay up, stay healthy, is going to be a very good football team again. It's the same old scenario under Brett Chappell. He's got a good staff, got great kids. His system's intact. They're going to do the Pisgah way as far as how they're going to play football. And they got Aaron Clark back, another great quarterback. He's an up-and-coming kid, only a junior. He's got a lot of skill. And then in Franklin, you look at Franklin and you think they don't throw the ball, okay, but they're the type of team that are going to tell you, we're going to run it right here, stop us.
And Franklin's Franklin, and they do a great job.
Right. So, and then so when you're looking at that, you have a lot. You're looking at the teams that lost a lot, West Henderson and Smoky Mountain, how that is going to affect them. Franklin lost their senior quarterback to graduation, receivers, running back. So they may have to start a 5'9" sophomore quarterback. And so that tells you that they're going to utilize the running game 95% of the time, and they're going to try and pound on you. And Pisgah, just strange as they've had good successful years the last 2 years being on the road. People, I just don't understand what that's like, and that is that they lost their stadium to the flood again, and it took them 2 years. So they've been on the road for 2 years. And they're finally getting home. So it's going to be a real special place come opening night on the 18th when Brevard comes in to play Pisgah. And so I think Pisgah's getting home on their home field. That's going to make them feel good. They're not always on the road. and then Tuscola with the new coach, and then also with the new additions of the quarterbacks and with the kids that they got coming up. That their head coach is really excited about their offense. Then we'll see about their defense. So you kind of look at those teams and say, okay, they lost the traditional powers. West Henderson, Smoky Mountain, and Franklin always seems to be in the mix in the Mountain Seven. They've lost a lot to graduation and starters. And Pisgah and Tuscola have benefited in that, returning a lot of sophomores and juniors to seniors at Pisgah, and then Smoky Mountain. Not Smoky Mountain, but Tuscola, finding some kids to fill into some holes, and they're pretty good kids. So it's going to make for a very interesting conference play when they get into the Mountain 7 schedule.
Well, let's do this. We'll start with East Henderson, and they have a brand new coach that came in a little bit late, Colton Brackett. And if I'm not mistaken, he is an East Henderson guy, so he's got some local stuff going on. And let me go over their pre-conference schedule real quick. They open up with Andrews at home, and Andrews, was just a juggernaut last year. They turn around and they play Hendersonville, who was Hendersonville. They're gonna be good, and they're at home. Their third game is against Owen. It's also at home. And then they got Franklin, West, Tuscola, North, Pisgah, and Smoky in the conference. So it looks like to me they're one game light in the pre. No, I'll take that back. They open up with North Buncombe. I owe you an apology. They open up with North Buncombe away, and then they come back and play Andrews, Hendersonville, and Owen for their non-conference schedule. So I want, for one, I don't know. I don't know much about him. I don't know what to expect. I know that, again, he's a local guy who takes a lot of pride, and that's his school.
East has been struggling ever since Chapel left in 2013. And, they've been trying to get the program back on track. They haven't had the success that when Chapel was there. So, last year they finished last in the conference with a 2-8 overall record and 0-6 in the conference. And so they're going. But here's the thing: you want to take baby steps right now. New coach coming in. He's an East Henderson guy. He's alumni. He's got a lot of pride.
Keep talking.
If he can get that pride back into East Henderson, still that's a stepping stone. But you're still going to have the Jimmies and the Joes, to play winning football in that. So, but the bottom line is East Henderson is East Henderson. Am I talking to myself? Yeah, here you come.
Nope, here I did. I had to do a little adjustment there.
So, as far as if they can get some, they got 2 non-conference wins last year, and they went 2-2 in non-conference play. If they can pick up some wins with the new football coach and get a little juice, maybe they can make some noise in the conference. But right now, it's awful hard to be dead last, 0-6, and then you got a new coach for a reason. Things just didn't go their way. They're trying to turn the program around. So bottom line is, maybe they can get it. And for the Mountain 7 to be strong, you need a strong East Henderson and a strong North Henderson, or at least somebody who can play with the upper echelon.
And that leads me right into North Henderson.
Right.
And I will tell you, something just tells me that they're going to turn the corner this year. I'm just a big believer that could be the case. Jim Beatty, that used to be the guy at Robertson, he went to Mars Hill as the offensive line coach. Really nice guy. He's a friend of mine. Man, I think they're going to, I don't know record wise, but I think they're going to be a better football team. And, they got Zach Wilkins, Danny Wilkins' son, on the staff.
Right.
And anytime you got a Wilkins, you got somebody that, I'm a big believer in that family. And Zach and Jonathan are buddies. and I know that Beatty and those guys are going to get those guys ready to go. Record wise, Chuck, I don't have a clue.
They were 3-7 last year and 1-5, and again they were in a rebuild. So you look at North Henderson, and here's the things I take away from North Henderson: it's if you got those kind of coaches, you got one thing, you can check that box. You got good coaches that can push their kids, build them, get them stronger, but they'll put their kids in position to win football games on Friday night. They got coaches. And number two, other than the Pitt and Franklin, to me, it was the hardest place to play at North Henderson. In that pit, in that bowl, with the big hill. I mean, you
really.
Oh, it just always seemed to be, and when broadcasting the Pisgah games, it was just always tough to play in that. It was sloppy play, and North Henderson, when they have a Haywood County team coming in, they're jacked. They're emotionally ready for the game. I always found that it was a very difficult place to play. Now, I'm not saying that you go in and you lose those games, but, when North Henderson was struggling, they still would man up and play you tough. And sometimes there was an upset pulled out of there, and they always pulled it on their home field in that bowl. So they got that going for them. Now, as far as the Jimmies and the Joes, you still need them. And so, when you got good coaches, it takes time to build.
Well, let's look at their pre-conference schedule, and they open up at home against Hendersonville, and then they turn around and they play Rosman at home, Owen at home, and I don't see another then they play Inca later on in the season. So their 4 non-conference games are going to be Hendersonville, which is going to be a tough. You got Rosman. Rosman's in a total rebuild.
Right.
You got Owen. That's going to be a little bit better, but Owen has had a tough time since Kenny left.
Right.
And then Inca with our buddy Sexton is going to be better. So not the toughest pre-conference schedule, but not the easiest, Right. So and again, for teams in the conference this year, you want to win every game you play.
Right.
But I believe that these guys that are saying, hey, we want to compete for the championship. And again, they do want to all win. But I believe that their goal is to be healthy, get better every game. And if you don't get the win, be better when you walk off the field than when you got on the field for warm-ups and get ready for the next week, because it's going to be a little gauntlet this year. It's not going to be easy in the Mountain 7. Okay. So East Henderson, North Henderson, and then that's going to take us to Franklin.
Right.
And I will tell you this. They are going to be well coached. They are going to play hard.
Right.
You will know that you are in a football game. The Brooks brothers, head coach Josh and Jay, are 2 of the finest guys that I know. They're hard-nosed. They take no quarters. They give no quarters. And they're not going to – listen, they're not going to go out there and try to trick you. We're going to line up. We're going to hit you in the teeth.
Right.
And if you're man enough, take it. Let's go, because this is what we're going to do, and our kids are going to be coached hard, and they're going to play hard, and that's a tough place to play on the road too. So I'll let you talk about them while I'm working on their schedule here.
Right. Franklin is going. You're going to strap it up. If you don't strap it up, you're going to be in for a long night. But whether they're home in their their home field at what's just called the Pit.
And it is a pit.
Well, and I mean, they got great fan support. They
Absolutely.
got a program, and they have philosophy is that they're not going to be spread them out and throw the football around. They're going to come at you. And that's the Brooks brothers' MO.
Yeah.
Josh and Jay is that they want to strap it up, and I'm going to put my guys against your guys, and we're going to pound you until you submit and wave the white flag of surrender. they will refuse to wave their flag. That was one of the things that was impressive about Franklin. No matter where you played them, they didn't quit.
Yep.
There was no matter what the score was. So that's credit to the Brooks brothers. I when I first got here and first got to the Mountaineer in 2004, Daddy Brooks was on their dad was on the staff at Pisgah. He was one of the greatest guys I've ever met. And we used to talk football, and he was just so positive. But you talk about a man you knew he was hard nosed, so they get it legitimately from Daddy.
Yep,
they're hard nosed people. So Franklin is just a well known commodity in the Mountain Seven.
Yep. And their non-conference schedule, Chuck, is they open up with Murphy at home. I saw Murphy last Friday against our kids out there at North Buncombe, and Murphy is Murphy. They are going to go deep in the playoffs. They got some athletes that can play. They got Murphy. Then they turn right around and play Robbinsville, who is probably one of the top 2 preseason picks, not just in that conference, but in the state in 1A, along with Murphy. And then they turn around and they play Swain County. And Swain and Robbinsville are on the road, and then their last game of the year is a non-conference game on the road against TC Robinson. So that is not an easy schedule, and I don't care that they sit there and say that those are 1A teams. Murphy, Robbinsville, and Swain that's Western North Carolina football. Don't care about the size. That's just they're great football programs, and TC Robertson's going to be really good this year, from what I understand.
Isn't that odd that they had the open date on the last day of the regular season, and they scheduled on the road? They're going to they're playing. No, Franklin is it Franklin? Yeah, I think it's Franklin that was playing on the road last game of the regular season. TC Robertson.
Yeah, TCR. They absolutely are. So. Again, Franklin is Franklin. Those guys are going to coach him. Those kids are going to play hard, and never an easy game. Now, Smoky Mountain, the Mustangs, and you're very familiar with most of that staff. You're pretty familiar with Ricky and a lot of those guys out there. Now, I think a big loss for them. Did David retire or did David come back? David Presley.
What I learned was, or what I heard was, is that David retired, stepped down, and was done. He's committed his time to to the kids, and it's now he's going to go into retirement.
Because David, and now my thing with David goes back. I met him. When stuff when my kid was playing, and I met a lot of these coaches through the years. He was one of the finer coaches that I've known. Probably one of the top 2 or 3 offensive line coaches in the state of North Carolina. He is that good at what he does.
Right.
But I go back to I don't remember the year, but it might have even been his last year before he decided to leave the game over here with the county rivals. And I was doing the TV broadcast. You were doing the radio. And when he went for 2 down there after the offside penalty, that's one of the gutsier calls that I've ever seen. So, we'll go back and talk about Smoky Mountain, but I just want to say about David Presley. What a great guy, what a great coach, and if he's retired, come with us, get on here with us sometimes. We'll talk a little football, and I'll watch you harass Chuck. So and that he will cut you no slack, but
he never did.
Smoky Mountain,
too much, David.
Let me go non-conference schedule. Okay. They've got Cherokee at Cherokee. They've got Swain at home. They got TC Robertson at home and Murphy away. So they're not playing Little Sisters of the Poor for a non-conference schedule. And I was lucky enough to see 7-on-7s, okay, 7-on-7s. But I'm telling you, Cherokee is going to be good. Cherokee is well coached. This guy's got them believing. They've got a kid that's playing quarterback, left-handed young man that could play for me any day. He's not very big, but man, he can fling the football around a little bit and he can move, and you can tell he is in charge. He is the leader. So that's not an easy game for Smokey to open up with. And then again, you go to Swain, you got TCR and Murphy. Kind of a tough pre-conference schedule.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to replace a lot of the production, the main production of your offense. Trying to find that trigger man, that quarterback, after the departure of the brothers. But that's real life. That's what happens sometimes. And but Ricky Brindley's one of those guys that just, he's learned. Look, it's, don't cry don't cry for us. We're not asking you to cry for us. We'll pick it up, and we'll strap it up, and we'll find 11 kids to put on the football field that will play hard, and they will. They'll play hard and very effective because Ricky Brindley is one of the better coaches in the Western North Carolina region. So, I'm not going to feel sorry for Smoky Mountain because they got a good coach and coaching staff, and they got great fans. So play on, and that's the way it's going.
And they will. Yeah. Pisgah. My friend Brett Chappell.
Right.
I've knew Brett when he was at East Henderson, and then when he came over here, my young man was gone by then, and Mike Matthews and I spent a lot of time with him down at the lake, down at Douglas Lake. We were out there one day acting like we were catching fish, and if people know Mike and I. We didn't catch crap besides a good story and a bunch of lies and laughing. But we saw this boat come by with a guy and his wife and these two kids, and they started hollering at us, and we're going, "Wait, what have we done? What have we done wrong?" And it was Brett and Lori and the two kids, and we met up down there for, I don't know, a year or two, a couple of years at least. Down there, and I'm going to take this phone call, and you talk about Pisgah because this might be somebody we might have on the air in just a minute.
Okay, very good. All right, with Pisgah, obviously know them very well, follow them all the time. Spent 12 years on their color analyst on their radio broadcast with one of the best play-by-play guys that I've ever been associated with, in Chad Upton. Great fans. At Pisgah High School. To me, it all starts in the health of their team. They've had the last couple of years, they've had a rash of injuries, but again, they're one of those people, one of those teams that just don't cry for us or don't, worry about us. We'll find somebody else to plug in there and we'll play. And I think the trigger man, Aaron Clark, is going to be a good one. I think he's got a lot of skill. He's a leader. And here's the thing about Aaron Clark. He's won the team. So he's the leader of the team. He's not appointed. He's won the team. And so, Pisgah's plays great. They're number one. They're going to play great defense. One guy that I love on the defensive side, and I can name all 11, but it's Titus Bridges. This guy's, is a beast on the mat, and he plays the same way out on the football field. And so on the defensive side, they got a lot of kids that will strike you, and they'll play with a lot of attitude. And so, defensively, they're going to cut their teeth on the defensive side. Offensively, health is a factor, just like all the other teams. If you got a player that goes down, then you just gotta plug and play. And like I said, is that they've had their share, more than their share of injuries over the course of the last 2 years playing on the road, and they didn't bat an eye. They were competitive all the way. Yep. They were fight at the end. So that's the MO and the DNA of Brett Chappell, and he's going to get it out of his team. But I love, those two players, actually three players, and that is Aaron Clark, the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and a good defensive player in Braylon Reynolds. This kid can run. He's a sprinter. He's fast. And then you got Titus Bridges. If you ever get tackled by Titus Bridges, act dead so they can get you out, because I'm going to tell you something, this kid will strike you.
There you go.
So they're going to be good on the defensive side of the ball, and I think they'll come around. This group on the JVs, this junior group, was really good. They had a lot of success on the JVs, and again, they were playing a lot of games on the road too. Their field wasn't available, so but this group they've been looking to, because they, this is a very special group in the junior class at Pisgah.
And their non-conference schedule, they open up at home, and good for them. They've waited long enough. They open up at home with Brevard, then they go to Inca, then they play Hampton, Tennessee at home. Don't know the first thing about them, and then they go on the road to Hayesville before the conference schedule. So they got Brevard, Inca, Hampton, Tennessee, and Hayesville for the Bears to get ready for the conference schedule. Now, that leads us to West Henderson.
Right.
And I know a little bit about those guys, not a ton, but I know enough. And first of all, Paul Whitaker, Whit, in the last 2 years, got to know this guy. And what a privilege to what a guy. Really, 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 those kids are lucky to have him. The community out there is in Mills River is lucky to have him. Wonderful job last year. A wonderful job. 12-1, 13-1, and excuses are for everybody, but six starters in that playoff game that they lost had the flu, including the quarterback, including the receiver, including the 2 running backs, and still should have won the football game and had a chance to get the ring last year. But boy, they lost a lot of stuff, but they got 2 running backs back that can get it done. And you got Manuel, who is just a special athlete.
Right.
So they're going to be competitive in every game that they play, because they're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to get Manuel, the records he set last year with Luke back there throwing the ball around. Where it's going. I don't know that they'll be broken. That's how 34 touchdowns receiving. And just a great kid, but my understanding is that he is not going to play quarterback. That they were the word on the street was he was going to play quarterback, but he is not going to be the quarterback. So I don't know who's going to be back there. I remember they had a kid. I remember one of them last year, but again, I'm not for sure who's going to be the trigger guy. And before I turn it over to you, Chuck, their non-conference schedule, they opened with a toughie, Newton Conover down there from Mooresville, down there at Lake Norman, and then they got Hendersonville, Polk County, and Irwin. That is a heck of a pre-conference schedule. Let me say that again. Newton Conover, Hendersonville, Polk County, and Irwin before you hit the conference.
Right.
So Whit has decided we're going to play somebody.
Right.
And there is no cupcake there.
I think, Whitaker's a type of guy that will, non-conference is non-conference, and you're all focused on the second half of the season for the most part. And that those 4 games that you're playing in non-conference, you want to try and get your team better by playing stiff competition. And that's a good thing. But they've lost a lot, David. I mean, just that quarterback and the offensive coordinator that now is the head coach at Tuscola. That's a lot of things.
Well, let me say this, that Luke it's special. was special at that level. And Luke is my understanding is a true freshman. He's down there at Gardner Webb competing for the starting job as we speak.
Right.
He could fling it, and the difference between his junior and senior year was he used his feet and put himself and put the team in a position to make some plays. But again, I think as long as you have a true up manual, you have a chance. And they have two running backs that just really, really, really played well last year.
Right.
Really played well that nobody saw coming. No one. Because before the first game of the year, and even after the first game of the year, it came down to the fact that they were going, man, we're going to have to throw it 60 times a game, and we can't run. Well, that was proven wrong.
Right.
And they're both young, and they can fly. I think one's like the 440 champion, number 13, and I remember his name, but I got a COVID brain going right now, and he can fly. So I still think they got a chance to compete, and until somebody knocks them off,
right,
it's their conference.
Well, it's a different team, and you have a different year, and they lost. My understanding in looking at this, they lost a lot of people up front,
and they did.
And so when you got a brand new offensive line, but you got studs in the backfield, that's not a recipe. They can come in and be better than the guys they lost. I mean, we won't know until they start playing, obviously. But I throw caution to the air and say, okay, it's the scoring points. It's not going to be as easy as it was the previous 2 years, and specifically last year. So again, these are one of the teams that lost a lot. They lost one of the best triggermans, a Division I quarterback, and went to Gardner Webb. He was the best quarterback in the conference. He may have been one of the best quarterbacks in the mountains.
He was the best quarterback in the state.
Well, I mean,
that's my very biased opinion, but he was.
He was a good quarterback, and so very good quarterback and an elite quarterback. But when you in high school football, when you lose like something like that, it's there's a learning curve, and there's always a step back. And so West is going to. They have the caliber, the coaching to compete for the title. There's in my mind, there's 4 teams that can compete for the title, and we've talked about 3 of them.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Piskin.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that West, although what they did last year, it was last year. They've got to solve the problem up front. They got to protect their new quarterback, whoever it may be, and they got to open holes for their studs. And in high school, a lot of times those studs can get open on their own. They can find a spot, break, through a crack, and all of a sudden they're in the second level, and then they become, they start putting on a show. So, they're not. It's not woe is me at West Henderson. They just got to answer a lot of questions.
Yep, and if anybody can, again, I'm a big fan of Witt. And then, okay, now here's where things got to change during our show. The last team we're going to talk about are the Mountaineers, and we're on the Tuscola Football Network as we speak. But I'm going to leave this totally to you because it's like on ESPN on game day. Sometimes you just say, I'm not going to make that pick. And for me, on Saturdays, talking about things, that's okay. But the rest of it is you. So I'm going to turn the Tuscola thing over to you. And before you do, let me tell you their pre-conference schedule. Friday night, Asheville High at C.E. Weatherby Stadium. They turn around and go on the road down to Polk County. Polk County's unknown. Got this new coach that the Asheville Citizen-Times has said is the #1 new football hire in Western North Carolina. They got McDowell on the road, and don't know much about McDowell, but it's, probably a good football program. And then we got Swain, who is traditionally Swain. Swain's going to be good, and we got them at home. So we got Asheville, Polk, McDowell, and Swain. And I'm going to turn this over to you.
Well, in my opinion, the Asheville Citizen Times got it right. First, the head coach, the new head coach, is the number one hire.
No, he's talking about the guy at Polk. Yes, he is.
The number one coaching hire is
the guy at Polk.
Got it, Polk. Well, number one's at Tuscola. Sorry,
No.
that's my opinion. So anyhow, I think that they got a great hire, and that's where they're starting. And but he's got to have those Jimmies and Joes, and it's going to take time for him to put that system together. Right now they're locked down and getting ready for Asheville, and it's going to be a good first test because with that game we're going to find out exactly what they have early season and where they have to improve, because everybody will need to improve something after the first game. You can't go in there and go, boy, we were perfect in every phase of the game. But here's the thing that they're coming off. They're coming off one of their better seasons in the last 10 years. The kids are believing. The kids that remain, obviously they've had the graduation, but the kids are believing. They beat Pisgah for the first time in, I think it was 10 years. Stopped a 10 game winning streak, and so now it's Tuscola owns the winning streak at 1. They own that, but so the kids are very excited about the season. That's a good starting point when you're playing high school football. And although I think John Austin Chambers is one of my all-time favorite coaches, I've said that from day one. He's a very aggressive coach. Houston McCracken is one of my all-time favorite players when he played at Tuscola, and he's a coach for Johnson. So, the bottom line, they got good coaching, and if you got kids that are excited and are buying in, you got some good things happening. But we don't know. We won't know until Friday night's game is over with, just exactly how that will play out. So, I mean, the bottom line is you got, you got kids, Stephen Brooks. Here's a unique twist is right. Stephen Brooks is an outstanding lineman that Jonathan believes is going to go to the next level. And he's got size, he's got strength.
Oh, no doubt.
And he's a very good lineman. His cousin, now Stephen's a senior. His cousin is David Brooks, and he's on the offensive line at Pisgah. They're cousins. And, the David Brooks is just under 6'5" and 296. And Stephen is just around 6'4" and I think about over 280. Here's the thing. I'd hate to be somebody supplying them two to eat, the food bill. Those kids, they can put away. Talking to a few people that, Rhonda Bird, that that's her nephew. She says the kids they eat and eat and eat. And I'm like, God, you got to get a second job to feed those kids. But the Brooks family, which is, a name that we remember here in Haywood County, Stephen Brooks and David Brooks, is going to be interesting because they're going to go up against each other in the big game on the 13th. So that's a nice, interesting twist to come up. Yep. But I think everybody on the Hill and in the Milltown are going to be excited, and they're excited, and there's good reason for that. They're going to have good football teams.
Well, I will say this, that the biggest unknown in the conference, the biggest unknowns are, I'm going to say East Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get West Henderson, but I think the number one biggest unknown is going to be Tuscola, the Mountaineers. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness you got 4 before the conference starts,
right?
Because, but we will see.
By any chance, you've seen the date when the two meet from Haywood County? They meet. It's Friday the 13th.
Really, I hadn't even right now. For me,
October 13th.
For me, all I know is that Friday night at 7:30, it's the Cougars, and other than that, then that's just my thing. But
that's what steps in and says, Chuck, we play Asheville Friday, and that's when I say, okay, Bill Belichick, we play Asheville Friday.
All right.
Weeks ahead.
Give me your prediction, or well, who are the four that you were talking about a minute ago?
Well, I'll give it to you in this way. I believe that Pisgah and Tuscola are going to battle for 1 and 2. No doubt.
Now, hold on. Now, let me stop you there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is the Tuscola Football Network, and I know that we do this, and we're in Haywood County.
Mm-hmm.
But are you saying that because of this? And I know you well,
Right.
But are you talking from your heart, or are you talking from your head?
My head. Sometimes it's not, full of.
That's right. You don't have a heart. I forgot.
That's right. I'm heartless. No, I just, after looking at all this, I followed I've always, since I've left in 2018, I've always followed the mountains. I love the people in Haywood County, and both schools. I got great friends, and so I'm well aware of what they got. And I just think, I haven't said who will win.
No.
It'll be settled on the 13th, on Friday the 13th in October.
Who are your four, though? Go back. Back.
I said I'd give it to you this way.
Okay.
1 and 2 is going to be decided between Pisgah and Tuscola. 3 and 4 is going to be decided between West Henderson and Franklin. I think Smoky Mountain has lost way too much, and I think there'll be five, and then you got East Henderson and North Henderson. You flip a coin, they're going to bring up 6 and 7. That's the way there's going to be 4 teams that are going to battle. And as you know, in high school, you get a break here, and high school kids get momentum, and they're like, all of a sudden they're in a hunt. It could be a 3-way hunt. But I think it's going to unfold this way, David, and it makes for that Friday the 13th in October really special, because I think they're going to be playing for a conference championship.
And I go back and I reiterate, at least you want to win every game. When you walk on the field, the goal is to win.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I love the fact that the people in this conference, and I never really put a lot of thought into it until this year, because honestly, I was done. You know what I mean? Right. I was detached. I was happy, didn't care. I wanted our local teams to do well. I wanted the Mountaineers to win every week, but it was what it was. But since all this happened in March, and you and I were asked to do the stuff on Saturday, and it kind of morphed in from Saturday to all this other stuff that no one would believe what we've got going on. Right. With this. I started looking at everybody's schedule and going, wow, it's really awesome that you have 4 weeks to get yourself prepared for the real season.
Right.
I mean, again, nobody, including the coaching staff and the kids and their parents and everybody, nobody wants them to win Friday more than I do.
Right.
I promise you that. I promise you, if they would go out and let us play checkers on the 50-yard line, and you beat me, I would kick the board and say, let's play again till I win.
Right.
It's but that 4 weeks gives these teams, you talk about West Henderson.
Right.
What a tough pre-conference schedule, but boy, that's going to get them ready for the Mountaineers and for the Bears and for the Mustangs and the Panthers and I just think that the way that it's set up, it's going to be a dogfight. No matter if you're East Henderson or North Henderson or wherever, it's going to be good football in the Mountain 7 this year. And I'm not trying to be very overly optimistic about it. That's just my research and the study that I've done, and knowing the people inside that I'm lucky enough to know. Right. I just think it's going to be really good. And I don't know, again, I won't, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie, man. I want Tuscola just to lay the wood to Asheville, but hey, we'll see what happens, but be better next Monday than you were Friday.
Well, True. And if there's a great time to play with and maybe upset Asheville, because obviously they're loaded with D1 talent also, and they're a very good team. They're Asheville is Asheville, as Jonathan explained last week. It's Asheville. It's Asheville. That's all he had to say.
Yeah.
If you want to pick them off, first game. First game. When everything's not working in sync, some of it's working in sync. They still got to get in sync with the season. First game's the time that you want to play a tough opponent because you can pick them up. And if that can happen, Katie barred the doors. I mean, it's just absolutely going to be on for Tuscola. But it is a tough game, and if they take it on the chin, then use it as getting better for the next week. But here's the thing. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think Tuscola can lay in there. And if they can get to the fourth quarter, their play calling could carry them to a victory. So I think they're going to play right with Asheville.
Well, we're going to find out in about 4 days, aren't we?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Buy a ticket, watch that game.
All right. The MAC conference. And folks, if you're watching this, don't leave us, even though we're talking about the MAC, because before we talk about the MAC, we're doing well, Chuck, in our little baseball thing. Yeah, you and I are. We had another good week so far, haven't we?
Yeah.
How about those Orioles and how about those Braves
and the Braves? They scored 30 runs over the weekend against the Mets.
My man Buck might be looking for a job.
Do you know what the run differential is, Atlanta?
I didn't look today.
Plus 196. The run differential, 117 games, they're 196 in the plus.
Plus.
The nearest one to them is the LA Dodgers in the National League, and it's like they're 60 runs behind them in the run differential. Orioles, they're on the West Coast swing. We were worried about that. They won 2 out of 3 in Seattle. Joe Boo.
Yeah, and we're going to have our show later on in the week. We're going to get back and to finish talking about the college sports landscape in Major League Baseball. But we always have to throw in our futures bet. And before we talk about the MAC, let me indulge just a little bit since I got to get all this done. Go to CromptonAuto.com. CromptonAuto.com, or come see me at 1256 Delwood Road, and see we've got a great inventory. Going to try to add 15 or 20 more this week. Today, Chuck, we've got and listen to this: a jet black 1985 Corvette, 103 miles, one owner.
Ooh.
One owner, 103,000 miles, one owner, jet black Corvette, and you can get this thing for under $11,000.
You get that from Flint, because that's what Chevrolet General Motors products. That jet black 103,000 miles.
Jet black Vet with the convertible T top that comes off.
Oh, really?
And this and it's got it's regular. It's got the 5.7 engine in it, but it's got that computerized chip that adds 85 horsepower on top of the regular, and you can feel it, and this thing is a rocket ship. CromptonAuto.com, fill the application out, good credit, bad credit. I will get you a loan.
92.
So
that's over 40 years old. That's coming up on 40 years old.
It is listed as an antique, but it is but this is a car you want to drive. Hey, look, we live right here at the Parkway. You and your beautiful wife, whoever you are, get in that thing, take the top off. The fall is coming. Drive up on the Parkway. Act like you own the building. Puff your chest out. Hold your head up high. You own the building.
I'll tell you the selling point to that car. Somebody in Haywood County, go get it, because you can go to either football game. You're going to have a black car. It's going to match your team. You can be driving into Memorial Stadium or Weatherby in that car in a class.
That's right. C.E. Weatherby Stadium, the greatest place to see a high school game in America. Okay. The MAC Conference, AC Reynolds, Asheville, Inca, Irwin, McDowell, North Buncombe, and TCR. I will say this before and again, I think we both will say we don't know a ton about these guys because most of our concentration is on the Mountain 7. AC Reynolds is going to be AC Reynolds. Asheville is going to be Asheville. I do know that TCR, that Roberson's going to be better. Irwin is going to be Irwin, and they've got some great athletes, and they're really well coached by Rodney. Rodney does a fantastic job right over the mountain. Inca with Mike is Sexton. He's turning that ship around, and it takes a long time sometimes to turn a battleship around. And I can't think of a better guy. And that's his home, and I cannot think of a better guy to be there. McDowell, don't know much about him. North Buncombe, saw him the other night. They got some good-looking kids. Now I don't know how they're going to compete overall, but they've got 3 or 4 kids that look the part. They look better than anybody on that football field last Friday. And I'm telling you, they looked better. And, I remember when we went to Alabama, when Jonathan was a senior and they're out there warming up, and this guy said, boy, oh boy, don't they look good? And this guy came up behind me, and his name was Mike Matthews, and he said, our guys look good, but they look better in their uniforms than we do. Look at the difference in those people compared to our people. And we got really good people, but they got better people. And those 3 or 4 kids that North Buncombe had looked like good-looking people. So I'll throw it over to you for what we do know, what you do know about the MAC. And then if you know anything about Asheville, just start talking about Asheville.
Right. First of all, is that that conference, the MAC conference, has kind of been run by a trio of teams, and that's TC Robertson, Bud Asheville Reynolds, and Asheville High School. Those 3 teams have pretty much been over the last couple of decades.
Reynolds,
the conference, Reynolds, Asheville, and TC Robertson.
Yeah.
And that also, when you look at schedules, predicated on saying that is where they play. Is it favorable where maybe Asheville's away at Reynolds and Robertson, or they have to go on foreign turf, or as we say, on a sacred acre. A football field's around an acre of land. That's why I call it an acre.
Yeah, they're playing at Asheville this year. Reynolds is playing at Asheville. But boy, they open up with West Forsyth. Then they got Shelby and East Forsyth, and then Watauga. Shelby's going to be good. Shelby's always Shelby.
Golden Lion.
And isn't West Forsyth a pretty darn good football program?
West Forsyth. Matter of fact, I'm in West Forsyth District down here. Haven't been by any of the practice, but the things that I've been reading is they're going to be a pretty good football team. They're a very large 4A school. And, they have traditionally – they have about, 3 years good and then an off year and then another 3 years and an off year. So pretty much West Forsyth's going to be a tough opponent. They play football down here in the Piedmont area, High Point, Greensboro, and Winston-Salem.
Well, the difference, and I know and people sometimes when you say this, they don't understand or they get angry at you. But I will tell you, when you get off the mountain, most of these guys can run. And that is the difference. They can run. And we got people up here that can run, but they got multiple people that can run.
Right.
And that's the difference when you get off the hill here.
The most incredible speed, and a coach that used to coach at Tuscola, Donnie Kiefer, who's had outstanding success down in South Carolina, winning, I think it's 2 state championships, and
2 or 3.
A program that was won 4 games in 4 years several years ago, Green Seed Floyd, and in his second year took him to the 3rd round, and in his 3rd year he won the state title. Donnie's and he has coached down east, and I'll tell you, Donnie Kiefer and Coach Kiefer and I used to talk about the down east speed. You can't simulate the speed. A kid that played at Tennessee, Montario Hardesty, was from New Bern. And I remember he made some kind of move against South Carolina. Remember the day they had the black uniforms on?
Yeah, the spin move.
And he made that spin move. And as soon as that happened, it wasn't 5 seconds. I get a text from Donnie Kiefer. He's sitting in the press box. And he said, that's a down east athlete right there. You cannot, that only they can do that. And I coached down in the down east area in Whiteville and at Tarboro. And I've never seen any place else the speed that's in, when you go east of 95, it's incredible speed. Now, they may not be big, but they can run and they're elite speed. So, when you get into the playoffs and you play teams down here, they have athletes who can run. The only way is, you've got to make sure that you're a great tackling team, but you got to be more physical against these teams, because you pop them a couple of times and they'll take that step back because they're not used to that down here. So anyhow, they open up with West Forsyth, Reynolds does, but Asheville, I think the Asheville, with the players that they've got and the college caliber kids, and they're going places, and being a senior group, they're going to be a tough opponent playing on their home field.
So who's your favorite to win that conference? Are you telling me Asheville over Reynolds?
Yeah, Asheville. I think Robertson's got a pretty good crew, and Dinwiddie is done well over there. I'm going to say the fight for second place will be between Reynolds and Robertson.
And then I see Irwin.
Mm-hmm.
And again, on any given day, I think the Warriors can play with TC Robertson.
Don't forget County. That's 1,800 students coming your way. That's a school. McDowell County. They're new to the MAC, or not new, relatively new.
Well, that's and if I remember correctly, I go back here and look, and guess who is on their schedule?
Who?
Tuscola. The third game of the year at McDowell.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, Asheville, Reynolds, TC Robertson has been down, but I think they're back up, and then Irwin might be the four teams because
right.
North Buncombe, Irwin, Inca. I mean North Buncombe. North Buncombe, Inca. They've got a ways to go.
Well, they're building,
but you got to start somewhere,
right?
And both of those guys are going to be well coached. Those teams are going to be well coached, and I think football in Western North Carolina is going to be we're going to have an up year. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I understand you. I think so. I think the new coaches that are building at programs in the two conferences that we're talking about, they understand you got to build a foundation. The kids have got to buy into you. And if they are buying into what you're selling, and then you got to build that foundation, you got to win in the weight room, and you've got to, your philosophy is got to be bought in, and the kids will be excited about that. That's building a foundation. You can't just go in and put in an offense and think, okay, I'm an offensive genius. Let's run with this thing.
That's it.
You got to build a foundation before you can do anything else. And sometimes it takes a long time.
Well, I'll say this. I'm looking forward to football in Western North Carolina. I'm looking forward to what we're going to do on Saturdays. I'm looking forward to this Saturday. We can actually talk about human beings,
right?
And use names and numbers and all those things that that CIA Jonathan has said, no, I don't know what you're talking about on the coach's show. So we'll be able to talk about those things and talk about these kids and talk about what I consider. I'm so looking forward to seeing this offensive line for Tuscola play.
Right.
I'm so looking forward to seeing those guys play and being able to say their names on here without.
Well, we said a few of their names, and we're probably going to get a phone call from Bill Belichick Jr. He said,
but I'm, whatever happens, I'm so looking forward to it. Haywood County, I think it's going to be a great year in Haywood County, Western North Carolina, and it's going to be fun. You and I are going to have a good time.
Right.
And so we've been on here for 59 minutes. So we were going to do an hour tonight. We're going to get off here in just a second. We will be back on later this week to do more stories on the landscape of college athletics, which, in my opinion, is slowly dying. This week, coaches spoke out that were really forceful about how horrible all this is happening. It is horrible for college athletics. It's horrible for academics. It's horrible for everything. It may be except for football.
Look, bottom line, Dave, before we go, come on onto the Wake Forest side. We go to school. We're good people. Go Wake Forest. Go Demon Deacons.
But, so you're no longer a Michigan man?
No, I didn't go there. Man made me man.
So anyway, we will be back later on this week. We're going to talk a little Major League Baseball, catch up with that. Chuck will have some insider information that he'll have every show, and I'm sure he'll do some more digging and research for Friday night in Waynesville, North Carolina. So thank you guys. Thank you for turning into the Tuscola Football Network. Chuck, thank you for great work as always. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you later on. Don't forget, we're tailgating down here Friday early. Well, hopefully I'll have everything ready to start at 10. I don't even know how much food to get. I don't know whether to get a pound or 20 pounds of pork. So if you think you're going to come by here, call me, message me, contact me somehow so I'll know what to do. But God bless everybody. And Chuck, thank you, buddy. I'll see you later on.
We'll see you Thursday night. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Thursday night. Later, guys.
See ya.